Keyonte George is currently playing in his third NBA season, and so far his play has been pretty up and down. In the summer league, he always looked like a world beater, averaging over 30 points per game, and setting himself up to be the cornerstone for Utah's backcourt going forward. But in his first 2 years, the production at the NBA level hasn't been consistent. Last year, what really affected him was his low efficiency and high turnover rate, and because of that erratic play, he was constantly in and out of the starting lineup. But George's play so far this year has taken a big step up. Over the past 6 games, he's averaging just under 29 points per game, with a big improvement in the efficiency. In this video, we're going to look at what exactly George has been doing to find success, and whether or not it's going to be sustainable going forward. Now in the half court, Keyonte does a vast majority of his work out of pick and roll, and with the ball, plan A for him is to pretty much look to rise up for pull-up threes. Over this recent span of games, Keyonte is putting up over 8.5 threes per game, and these are shots that he naturally finds when the defense gives him too much airspace. Mechanically, George has a high release point on his jumper, so if the defense gives him too much breathing room, it's going to be a tough shot to alter. Now off the bounce, I don't think Keyonte has the most dynamic game. He's not a super explosive downhill driver, and he doesn't have the ball control and footwork to consistently create separation and isolation. But to his credit, he is very aware of what he can and can't do, and most of the shots that he gets into are just these routine one-dribble pull-ups off the screen. There's nothing super advanced here. He's just going to hezzy up to read the defense, to then blast off for a 2-dribble pull-up. And Keyonte does have some tools to create separation if he needs to. He's very good at leveraging his pace to throw the defense off balance, by constantly changing his level and speed and finding these windows to elevate. I like the footwork on this play, where he's going to extend and plant with that ball side foot, to then pound the ball and skate behind the line for a step back. So as an outside shooter, I wouldn't say Keyonte is a top tier guy across the league, but he does have enough juice to command plenty of respect from the defense. And that typically pulls a lot of aggressive coverages up towards the 3, which then unlocks his scoring from below the arc. As a scorer, I think Keyonte does his best work in the mid-range. He's got the elevation to rise over contests, and he's got pretty good control from these in-between spots. He can slam the brakes to create separation, use that outside hip to bump and create space, plus his pace from these spots is really good. As he comes off the screen, look how he's going to use his eyes to look off this big, and he steps into an in-rhythm left-right jumper. The footwork and balance on this play is also really tough, where the Bulls are initially looking to ice the screen, but look how he's going to get into Kobe White and put him on his hip, and bounce off for a step back to his strong right hand. So that combination of pace and elevation does make Keyonte a pretty reliable shot creator from outside of the paint. He's consistently able to get to his spots, and even if the defense stays in front, he can still find ways to get that jumper off. Now when working closer to the basket, Keyonte also has a high level floater game, and again it all comes back to that pace and lift. As he turns the corner off the screen here, look how he's just going to slightly veer back in towards the paint, to then elevate up off 2 feet. I love the deceleration on this play, where he's got his foot on the gas attacking the basket, but then he's just going to stop and pop up for a vertical floater. And George can also initiate contact to set up these looks. Watch him here get into Reese's body, then bump and elevate for a soft bank shot. So I think all those are the best elements to Keyonte George's scoring right now. He's an efficient and high volume 3-point shooter. That outside threat gives him the space to turn the corner out of pick and roll. And from those in-between spots, he's very good at finding space for pull-ups and floaters. But in general, when Keyonte gets closer to the basket, that's where we begin to see some sore spots. Now to start off with the positives, George can finish if he gets daylight in front of the rim, and he can extend softly with either hand. He's also great at using that pace to move the big off their spot, by either selling that pocket pass to the roller, or threatening the jumper to pull him up towards the 3, giving him the leverage to attack the basket. However, when George has to deal with multiple bodies in the paint, that's when he kind of looks lost. He'll often just pick up and try to force things through traffic. He pretty much never plays off 2 feet, or uses any kind of deceleration in the paint. George also doesn't have a good feel of how to initiate contact to create angles. He sets up this drive here with a nice hesitation, but as he gets the step past his man, George should be looking to slow down and get into his body. But him rushing this pickup leaves him vulnerable to the block from behind. And like you just saw, Keyonte often avoids contact. by putting up these tough high arcing scoop layups as opposed to getting into the defense's body. I also think George needs to get better at keeping his dribble alive out of pick and roll. Once he turns the corner, he is pretty good at getting back into the defense's body, but he's often too quick to gather and force something up. So in essence, I think George does his best work when he can capitalize off breakdowns, by rising up for pull-up threes when the defense gives him too much breathing room, taking advantage of open space with pull-ups and floaters when he turns a corner out of pick and roll, or slicing all the way to the basket if the backline defense isn't honed in. But when George has to create offense against a set defense from scratch, that's when he struggles. He isn't really a top tier shot maker. He doesn't have the depth off the dribble to consistently create separation. He lacks elite burst or explosiveness with the ball. Plus his reads and feel in the paint to me is a step behind. So defensively, the clear answer for Keyonte, I think, is to just switch and force him to create on an island. It leads to him either forcing up contested threes or prematurely picking up the ball and trying to step through contact 15 feet away from the basket. Now, because George is a capable scorer from all three levels, he does have the ability to blow up for big scoring games. But going forward, I still think he has a lot of room for growth to truly be the engine of a legit offense. Now, it's also important to note that George's passing this year has also leveled up. Out of pick and roll, he's been able to map the whole floor very well. Because of that in-between scoring, he naturally pulls the big out of the deep paint, which creates windows for these routine pocket passes. And if the weak side defense cheats too far over, he can also make those second side reads. And in general, I love the way he's been processing the floor while making some pretty advanced deliveries. Look how he's going to lead the roller here with this outside left-hand bounce pass. And then because the Jazz have a high pace and screen heavy offense, lots of the reads that Keyonte makes are pretty simple. Off the go screen here, he pulls two towards the ball and spoon feeds Lauri Markkanen in this catch and shoot three. So offensively, I think there's no doubt that Keyonte George is taking some legit steps forward. He's already a very good perimeter and mid-range scorer. He's getting much more comfortable using his pace to create scoring and passing angles. And as a playmaker, his reads have been pretty solid. I think the biggest thing that Keyonte is missing right now is just being a more dependable one-on-one shot creator. If teams want to switch against him, he's going to have to develop ways to butcher those cross matchups. I think once he adds that to his game, we're going to be having a totally different conversation about him as an offensive player. Now, when switching over and looking at Keyonte's defense, this is where I have some more mixed feelings. To start off with the positives, I do think George has a good blend of length and foot speed, which allows him to both keep the ball in front, plus extend up to alter shots. And when he's honed in off the ball, he can also blow up a variety of actions, being able to help and recover in pick and roll, blast through off-ball screening actions, plus make plays on the ball in the gap. From a build and ability standpoint, I think George should easily be an above average defender, but from the games that I've gone over, the focus can be up and down. There's many times on the ball where he offers little to no resistance and makes the wrong choices with the personnel that he's guarding. He's going to sell out here for a Russell Westbrook shot fake.
Westbrook, a little show and go. Oh, wow.
Off the ball, he's also commonly a step behind on rotations by either losing track of his man or not being sharp on coverages and giving the ball handler easy angles towards the basket. When defending on the ball, I also think Keyonte is lacking a lot of strength. If the offense gets into his body, it's pretty easy to move him off his spot. That lack of strength also affects Keyonte when he's defending on the weak side, where he outright avoids contact or just bails out the offense with clear fouls. And in general, I think Keyonte needs to give better effort when he's not involved in the main action. He's often a corpse in gap by letting the ball get past him with no real resistance. He initially plays good defense here on DeRozan, but when Westbrook from the perimeter beats his closeout, Deontay literally steps back and gives him this runway towards the basket. And on defensive rebounds, he loves to just stand around and watch the ball, where again he avoids contact and lets his man waltz in for easy offensive rebounds. So again, I think George has the talent to be a very good defender. It just comes down to him being more honed in and consistent, while also not avoiding contact on or off the ball. So when looking at George's game from a bird's eye view, I think he's making a legit jump right now. Obviously, there's still lots of things that he has to improve on, but at the same time, he's been able to generate consistent offense on a night-to-night basis. And at age 22, if he can find a way to chip and get better year after year, he very well could be an all-star down the line.